Hi again, it's Jeff, and today let's have a look at what life is really like as a driving instructor, as opposed to what perhaps you might be being led to believe if you're looking at driving school websites. Now, I'm not for one moment suggesting that they're lying, but I do think sometimes they can be a little economical with the truth, and unsurprisingly they focus on all of the highlights or the upsides of being a driving instructor, but they don't delve into some of the downsides. And personally, I think it's really important that when you are considering a new career, particularly one where you're going to have to go through quite a lengthy training process and sit and pass exams in order to pursue that career, that you go in with your eyes wide open and you're able to make a fully informed choice. Okay, not that I'm wanting to put you off. Of course, I'd love you to be a driving instructor. I think personally it's one of the best jobs in the world, but like any other job, it's not all a bed of roses. It does have its downsides as well. So let me just quickly highlight what some of those are to you, and some of the misleading statements that I do come across on people's websites, so hopefully you don't get caught out. So to begin with, if you are a driving instructor, you're going to be self-employed. Now, it doesn't matter whether you're working for yourself or you're working under the franchise of a driving school, you're still going to be a self-employed driving instructor. So you're responsible for generating your own income, you're responsible for looking after your students, you're responsible for a lot of your business operating expenses, and you're responsible for paying the government any tax or national insurance that is required at the end of each year. And given that you are going to be self-employed, like any other form of self-employment, unfortunately you don't get holiday pay, you don't get sick pay, and the money that you generate on a week-by-week and month-by-month basis is going to fluctuate, because it's not the same as a PAYE salary that's sort of fixed, and your tax and national insurance is deducted at source, and then you get that money directly from your employer straight into your bank account. Being self-employed, if you haven't been in self-employment before, is a fair bit different to that. But I wouldn't let that put you off, because once you got your head around it all, it's a pretty straightforward business model to operate. And as I said, the upsides for me far outweigh the downsides. Which means, because you are going to be self-employed, excuse me, you are going to be able to pretty much dictate the hours that you work and when you work. So it really is up to you in terms of the hours that you want to put in versus the money that you want to get out. And of course, again, because you're going to be self-employed, you can decide to take time off when you want, pretty much. Of course, as long as that doesn't negatively impact on your students. For example, when they've got test dates coming along and you haven't pre-arranged with them that you're going to be away at that point, then that could lead to obviously customer dissatisfaction, which you want to avoid. But outside of those boundaries, it's really up to you in terms of how you manage your diary. So you could work Monday to Friday and have the weekends off. You might decide to take 2 days off, or even 3 days off during the week and work weekends instead. You might only want to work mornings or up to early afternoon, so you can maybe manage your childcare needs around your schedule when you're teaching. So there's a huge amount of flexibility within the job, and over a period of time you will be able to find a pattern of work that works for you. So let's now delve into some of those misleading statements that I often come across on people's websites. When I say people's websites, I mean driving school websites. So first of all, what I'd say is, please realise that at the end of the training process, providing of course you pass your Part 1, Part 2 and Part 3 exams, you are not going to be offered a job. As I just highlighted, you are going to be self-employed. Now, often on driving school websites, I see statements that make it sound like you're going to be guaranteed a job at the end of the process. But if you look at the wording carefully, what they actually say is they're going to offer you a position. Now, a position isn't the same as a job, for the reasons already stated. What a position means is they're going to offer you the opportunity to take up a franchise with them. which they are going to charge you for on a weekly basis. And typically franchise fees range from maybe £100 heading up towards £200 a week, depending on the benefits that they're giving you as part and parcel of that franchise package. So don't be fooled, okay? They are going to be generating a profit out of charging you a franchise. So of course they're going to want you to join their driving school, because it allows them to charge you that franchise fee and generate a profit from you. So don't get the impression that in some way, shape or form they're doing you a favour. Okay, they're not. They're charging you perhaps £2,000 or £3,000 for the training. Hopefully they're going to give you the support that's required to get through that training process, but at the end of it, ultimately you're going to be self-employed, and if you want them to provide you with students, provide you with a car, provide you with other benefits, then you're going to pay for the privilege of those services. The second misleading statement that I often come across, which you just need to be a little bit wary of, is that it almost sounds like they're giving you a plug and play solution. So again, as long as you get through the part 1, part 2, part 3 exams, they're going to offer you a position, and on top of that they're also going to give you a branded dual controlled car that you can train in and use for your own personal purposes outside of lessons. They're going to provide you with all of the students you could possibly ever want to teach, and therefore really all you need to do is sort of just turn up for lessons, take payment, and then go home. And unfortunately life isn't like that as a driving instructor. Even if they are providing you with lots of students, it's your responsibility to keep hold of those students. You're going to be working with those students on a one-to-one basis, and I can pretty much guarantee you, once they're a couple of lessons in, if you ask them which driving school they're training with, unless it's obviously branded on the outside of your car, they won't remember. All they're interested in is the personal relationship that they have with their instructor. And if that relationship isn't successful, if they don't feel comfortable and confident in the way that you're training them, then there's lots of other choice out there, and they'll simply swap from you to another instructor. So the only way that you can be successful in this job, regardless of whether you're working under a franchise with a driving school or whether you're doing it under your own steam, is to be a great driving instructor. And passing your part 1, part 2 and part 3 exams, whilst that gives you the ability to be able to apply for a license and start teaching students for financial reward, it doesn't in itself mean that you're a great driving instructor. To get great and to be successful, then you really have to know what you're doing. You have to get the right level of support and guidance, not just through the training process, but post-training as well, in the early stages of becoming a driving instructor. And you need to understand what those soft skills are as well, that are going to help you to keep hold of your customers and generate that loyalty that's going to, in turn, bring in that income and revenue and the profits that you're looking for. And in my experience, the vast majority of training programs that are put together by driving schools don't teach you those soft skills. All they're really focused on is getting you through your part 1, part 2 and part 3 exams. But as I've just pointed out, that in itself is not going to give you any sort of assurance that you're going to be a long-term success. And that's why we put so much effort and commitment at AET into helping you not just pass your exams, but also you're able to develop those critical sort of customer-facing skills, so that you know how to get the relationship with a brand new student off to a flying start. They really enjoy their first lesson, they're buzzed, they can't wait to come back for the second lesson, and before you know it, they're recommending their friends and their family member to have lessons with you as well, which is what it's all about. As an self-employed driving instructor, ultimately, even if you're working with a driving school, you're there to promote yourself. You're there to promote the quality of your instruction. You're not there to promote the driving school. Okay, so please bear that in mind. It's such a critical part of the job, and as I say, unfortunately, in my experience, a lot of the old-fashioned training solutions don't cover that absolutely essential element. So now, having got some of the downsides out of the way, let's have a look at the positives, because as I said right up front, I think being a driving instructor is an absolute brilliant job. It's certainly one of, if not the best jobs that I've ever had, and I've had quite a few over the years in different industries, and I just wouldn't swap it for the world, and I would highly recommend it to anybody that feels that it's potentially right for them. So first of all, what I would say is it's a very, very human job. You're going to be spending perhaps 30, 40, 50, 60 hours or even more sometimes with a student, helping them through the process of learning how to drive. And in that time, you're going to get to know each other pretty well. Now, I'm not saying you're going to build up a personal friendship, and of course you do need to keep your lessons professional. But you are going to get to know each other. You're going to get to understand, their motivations, what makes them tick, how to work with them on an individual one-to-one basis. So even if you're maybe teaching reverse parking for the third time that day, the way you teach it the first and second times is likely to be very different to the way that you teach it the third time, because each student brings their own personality and their own sort of sets of challenges along with them. And for me, sort of being quite an analytical person, I love challenges, I love problem solving, then that's a really big tick in the box for me. Secondly, it's a fun job. Surprise, surprise, maybe. Of course, you've got the serious business of teaching them how to drive. But if you have a look at the videos of me teaching real learners, hopefully what you'll see come through very loud and clear almost in every single lesson is we have a little bit of a laugh and a joke as well. We have a chat, we talk about non-driver training related things as well as driver training, because often you'll be driving maybe for 5 or 10 minutes down the road where there's not an awful lot kicking off, and of course you need to spend a bit of time just having a chat and just being sociable, really. So don't feel like this is like a super serious type of career. You can and you should bring quite a lot of fun into the job as well, and that just makes it nice and relaxed, nice and friendly. It puts a smile on their faces and hopefully puts a smile on your face as well. Thirdly, as we had already previously highlighted, of course, because you're self-employed, you've got that huge amount of freedom and flexibility in terms of when you work and how you work. You haven't got a boss looking over your shoulder, even if you're working under a franchise for a driving school. Nobody's checking up on you all day to see where you are and what you're up to. You haven't got any colleagues who might rub you up the wrong way, sort of getting on your back and annoying you. You don't need to spend hours and hours and hours in meetings that might just simply bore the pants off of you. And you're your own boss. You dictate when you work, how you work, and even though it may take a little bit of time to get to your ideal working pattern, you will definitely get there over time, so you can make it work for you, you can make it work for your family, you can fit in all of your sort of social engagements without any pressure whatsoever, and you've got complete control over your own diary, including of course as and when you take a holiday. And then finally, for this video at least, there's the money, which can be extremely attractive. But we're going to have a look at that in a little bit more detail in tomorrow's video. So look forward to seeing you then. Cheers. Bye.